What is going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? My name is JeffLightsyJr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. I brought in my guy, Mr. Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger. Khari, how's it going, man?
What's up, Jeff? How you doing?
Hey, I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good because today we are here to talk about the real official Jackson State schedule. I know. I've been on here before talking about a Jackson State schedule. Say what you want about all of that, but this is the real deal. I had to bring in Khari to talk about it, get his thoughts on what's taking place. Also, there's that JSU Gala that's going to be happening. You got spring football coming in. Travis Hunter is at JSU. Coach Prime. It's just so much going on with the Jackson State football program that I couldn't talk about this by myself. As you come in, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. So, Khari, first of all, let me ask you this. When you saw the fake schedule, what did you think? And then, and why were you slow, unlike some people like myself, to react to that fake schedule?
You consider sourcing on whatever information gets put out there, and I saw it floating around on Twitter, but I couldn't confirm it, so I was like, "Yeah, let's wait this one out and see what the real one is," because JSU promised to release that day, and so when they didn't release it, that was kind of fishy. Like if you're gonna be reporting on schedule stuff, you should probably get those good sources on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a big boy job, man. You work at the Clarion Ledger, a well-respected newspaper digital source down there in Mississippi. You're not just a guy like me. So, but now the real schedule is out. You got 9 SWAC games. Obviously, not all of them are considered SWAC games, but 9 SWAC games. You got Campbell coming to Jackson for homecoming. You get Grambling at homecoming, and Grambling beating Jackson State a lot in Jackson. What were your thoughts on the real schedule, the one that has finally been put out this week?
I like them playing Campbell. I don't know if you saw. Did you see that ESPN feature on Campbell? Basically, what they were doing.
I did. I read that. I read that piece. I did read that piece on Coach Mike Mentor and the recruiting and all the great stuff that's happening at Campbell University.
So I like that. They should hopefully with some of those recruits they'll be improved from last season because I think they were under 500 last season.
I think they were 3-8, like 3-8, 3-9, or something like that. That's why I wasn't thrilled about it, but I knew that they had a good recruiting class. But 3-8, 3-9, it wasn't the best season, but we'll see what they'll be able to do. But they had 3 winning seasons previously, like before last season, so I'll give them that.
Sure. So I think that's an interesting homecoming game. I think that should be a well-anticipated game. If you look at the JSU homecoming game, if you look at the JSU home games, man, dude, they should be able to pack like all of those.
Yeah.
Valley, that's a rivalry game. Southern, that's a rivalry game. Grambling, you got Hugh Jackson coming to town.
Oof.
You got Campbell for homecoming. And then I'm missing one. Who's the 5th home game that I'm missing?
I have the schedule pulled up right here. Let me see. It is, you got Grambling, Valley, Campbell, Southern. It's just those 4. Yeah. And then you got technically a home game against Alabama A&M, but that'll be played in Birmingham, I want to say.
That'll be in Mobile.
Mobile, my bad. Mobile. Yeah, you're right.
Classic.
So yes.
So if you look at those 4 home games, man, I think you're gonna get monster crowds for all 4 of those. I think
absolutely. But let's stick with homecoming. Let's go back to Campbell. As we see in some of the comments, man, the season tickets go on sale like on March 1st. I know a lot of people. You're thinking. I've been on record saying, man, I think with that recruiting class, getting Travis, bringing all these different dudes back, I was on record saying I think you could get on average 50,000 plus at every JSU home game. What are your thoughts on that?
Coach Prime would agree with you. He said that in his Instagram video. He said exactly that all those home games should get at least 50,000, which in past years would have sounded crazy, but considering what they did last year, I think it's in the ballpark. That Southern game is a huge game. So huge, in fact, that it was going to rotate off the schedule, and Jackson State and Southern were both like, no.
You're right about that.
So that's a huge one. You've got Mississippi Valley, which is the in-state rival. Grambling and JSU are probably the two most talked about HBCU football programs in the country at this point.
Absolutely.
So seeing those two go at it in Jackson will be special. And then you got Campbell, who's starting to make their own name under Coach Mike Minter. So really interesting roundup of home games. I'm curious your thoughts, Jeff, on this last round of the Southern Heritage Classic that we're going to see get played.
Man, it's the right move, man. It's like, so I've spoken about this several times now. Like the Southern Heritage Classic, you're talking about something that's been going on for 30 years, since 1990. And the school's payouts have been $6 million. Now, Khari, you went to an HBCU, you went to Hampton, you're a smart guy. I'm not so much, but I can do the math on a little bit of that. That's less than $300,000 a game. And that's not including the bands. That's not including the travel for the team. That's not including the accommodations, et cetera, et cetera. So it sounds like Mr. Fred Jones, no offense, it has been getting over the last 30 years. Now, I will say this. The Tennessee State football program and the Jackson State football program haven't been what they are in current form for the last 30 years. They haven't been the Deion Sanders-led Jackson State program. They haven't been the Tennessee State, Eddie George-led Tennessee State football program. So I understand that. But yesterday's price ain't today's price. Like we gotta, you know what I'm saying? We gotta up the ante. Getting Jackson State for anything for $300,000 is a discount. And Coach Prime understands that. And getting anything with Eddie George, like these men are businessmen. They do appearances and talks or whatever. They understand their worth as an individual is probably $300,000 or more, right? So you're talking about their football team that's going to bring you all kinds of publicity, have people traveling from all across the country to come to that game. And you only gonna give their team $300,000? Yeah, you're gonna have to cut the check, man. You're gonna have to cut the check. So that's how I felt when I seen it go down. And I was like, oh, it makes sense for them to leave, Prime to leave. And I saw Dr. President Glenda Glover. I always have to say doctor because my listeners always get on me about she is Dr. Glover. So okay, right. Dr. President Glenda Glover. I'm sorry. Glover. I keep saying Glover too. I think it's Glover. My bad. Sorry about that. But so she was upset, but then they did the interview with it. Did you know yes, I didn't know that, but I do know my audience let me know that she worked at JSU, and they seem to not be the biggest fan of her anyway.
Well, she's seen all sides of this.
Yeah, exactly. And so she seemed to be really upset, but then you got the interview from Eddie George, and he was like, nah, we need to leave too. I'm with Prime. We need to bounce up out of this thing. We need to put a pause on it. And then, moving forward, see what works best for each organization. And that I can't be mad at all.
I saw that. Yeah. I mean, I think your point is a good one that HBCUs need to be making better business decisions when it comes to athletics. And this is a game. I'll tell you what, from a game and experience standpoint, because I worked in Memphis for 3 years, so I've been a regular at the Classic. It's an awesome game. It's an awesome game. And it's, the crowds are lively, man. You've got the vendors out there selling stuff, man. It's a business boon, not just for, the Classic promoters, but like also you've got Black folk,
absolutely,
that are on the side. Like,
facts. My family lives in Memphis, and that is one of their favorite things of the year is the Southern Heritage Class, is what they told me. I visited Memphis this past year, and I was talking to them. I was like, yo, you got to come back. This was before the fiasco, but they were like, yo, you got to come back for the Southern Heritage Classic. It is one of the best events the city of Memphis has to offer, period. And I was like, yo, wow, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, it's a great game, man. I mean, that's a game that'll draw 40 to 50,000 a year. I mean, like it's a big time deal. So to think that Memphis would be losing out on that's unfortunate. But business is business, man. Welcome to a new era of HBCU football.
And that's what I love, man. That's what I love, because and I've spoken about this in several other podcasts. Because a lot of folks, they love to anticipate the day Deion Sanders leaves Jackson State. Like, that's everybody's saying, like, oh, y'all only do, especially the JSU haters. They're like, yo, you guys can only do these bully moves because Deion Sanders there. But as soon as he leaves, you're going to be crawling back to Southern Heritage Classic. Y'all going to be doing this and doing that. And it's like, yo, man, like, the thing is, the standard has been set. You don't go backwards. Once you set a certain thing, now I get it. Your next coach won't be Deion Sanders, right? And who's to say he's not going to stay for the next 10 years? So we could possibly be talking about something 10, 15, 20 years from now. Who knows? But regardless of if it's 10 years or 10 days from now, the standards have been set. Now, whether it's A.D. Robinson, whoever takes over Jackson State, they understand like, yo, I can't do business like we used to do. The standards have been set. We can only do business like this moving forward. There's no going backwards. You don't say our asking prices, I don't know, 500,000 or whatever, and then as soon as Deion Sanders leaves, you lower it back down to 50K. Like, no. We still have 500,000, or even if we go down, we only going down a smidge to 450 or whatever. We ain't going down to 10. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, yo, those standards have been set, and as you see how Jackson State has moved and elevated themselves, all of the other programs have elevated themselves, whether it's Valley and the way they recruited, whether it's Grambling going out and getting Hugh Jackson, the way they're recruiting and the way they're using social media, which I've said on record is probably the best out of all the SWAC teams, whether it's, Alabama A&M going out and getting their guys showcasing themselves at all the HBCU combines, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody has raised their level because of what Jackson State's done, and it's only going to make the conference and the programs better moving forward.
Totally agree.
And so, okay, so Khari, I have the schedule we're looking at it right here.
Yep.
Looking at this schedule, man, how many wins or how many? No, not wins. How many losses before spring ball, before any other transfers, just as the roster is currently constructed as you know it? How many losses could you see JSU having of the season? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 2, 3? Like, how many out of all these games that we know of? How many losses do you see JSU for this year?
I can give you 3 possibles.
Woo!
I'm not saying
they don't want to hear that, Khari. They don't want to hear 3 losses, but please explain.
All right. I think FAMU. That's the opening game of the season. They're going to be charged up for that one. Top 60 recruiting class or not, that was a 1-point game last season.
Yes, it was.
FCS playoff team.
Yes, they were.
So I think you got to look at that one as a possible. I'm not calling it a likely, but you gotta call it a possible.
Absolutely, got to respect the Rattlers.
For sure. Hugh Jackson and the G-Men. I think you gotta call that a possible.
Shout out to the Graham fam. They'd love to hear that. Please explain why, though, because this is a brand new coaching staff in their first year. But why do you think that is possible?
I mean, I got faith in the brand, man. I mean, Grambling is recruiting. They've shown the commitment that they're going to compete with Coach Prime and JSU. And I just think that I don't know. I don't think that's going to be an easy game for JSU one bit.
And the possibility, I don't know if you've been hearing this, but I've been hearing this, Khari, that they could be bringing in Art Browse.
Yeah.
If they bring in Art Browse, Jackson.
Air raid action?
Ooh. They bring in Art Browse, the SWAC is in some trouble. That's all I got to say. Continue on.
Well, JSU got a new OC too now.
Yeah, he ain't Art Browse, though. Let's be honest. Shout out to Mr. Bartoloni. Mr. Bartoloni. He ain't Art Browse. Right. He just ain't Art Browse.
Just think of JSU. So JSU has Shador, right? Think of their receiver room. Their receiver room is going to be crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Because you got Malachi Wideman already.
Yes.
Right? Travis Hunter is going to play some receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He said it multiple times. You got Kevin Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's 3 right there.
Yeah, that's some studs.
And they got more.
Yeah, that's some studs. You're leaving out Trevante Rucker, and then everybody in my comments are always excited about the play of Quay Davis. They're all telling me he's the best player we've never seen before, and I believe him, and I definitely want to believe him. But it's like I have to see him on the field, obviously. But Quay Davis is the name that I keep hearing. It's buzzing. That are like, the breakout star this year is going to be Quay Davis, and he's also in that receiver room.
Top 150 recruit coming out of high school, coming out of Dallas. So that receiver room is going to be wild, man. I mean, the question for JSU on offense is, will they be able to block? Because if you watched episode 1 of Coach Prime last night, straight out was like the offensive line was the weakest part of our team last season. And I mean, the stats back it up, man. I mean, it's ball.
Now, what would you say to those who say the O-line was bad, but the secondary was just as bad? Would you agree with that?
No, because the
simple answer, no.
Because the O-line, dude, if you look at the stat, right, the JSU was dead last running the ball.
Yeah.
And it just, they got away with it a lot because Shedeur was so good last year. But like when it came time, when they faced like South Carolina State in the Celebration Bowl, I mean, it all came to light, man. Like not only could you not run the ball, but you couldn't protect Shedeur long enough from making key mistakes in the red zone. And so, like that's, to me, that was far and away their biggest flex. Their secondary wasn't that bad. They're the best defense in the SWAC. Like, you could put all the success on the pass rush, but I don't think
it was a crazy pass rush. Led the FCS in sacks, especially with James Houston, what he was able to do. So that pass rush was nasty, and the linebacking core was nasty. Aubry Miller led the conference in tackles, and then Keontae Hampton was a former Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. So that front seven was pretty nasty for JSU.
Yeah, but nah, man. I mean, if we're comparing the O-line and the secondary, man, I don't think it's particularly close.
Well, what about this game? What about this Southern game? Southern's got Coach Dooley now. He's well familiar. It was close last year.
Very close. You get Southern should have won that one last year.
Southern should have won. Why do you say that? Why do you think Southern should have won last year? Because I'm right there with you.
I was there in Baton Rouge, and it took a bomb from Shedeur at the end of the game to win it. Like, if he doesn't make that pass, they don't win. And I mean, it was, you could easily say that Southern blew that one, and then there was the whole thing, the whole scuffle after the game.
The scuffle. They got the little scuffle.
I think you can chalk that one up to being destiny, man. I mean, they won in Coach Prime's return, and they scored 21 points in honor of Coach Prime. Exactly. You can chalk that one up. I don't know, man. Like, Shedeur had the game-winning touchdown. Shiloh had the game-clinching interception in that game. And they won by 21. It was just destiny.
Wow, but absolutely.
It could have easily gone the other way.
Absolutely, man. Once again, we're talking to Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, leave your comments in the chat. Now, Khari, I want to talk to you about the Southern Heritage Classic really quick. I know we touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk to you about the Southern Heritage Classic. Obviously, we still got spring ball. Obviously, we still got the transfer portal, which I'm sure somebody will be adding some pieces, after spring. Some people will be losing some pieces after spring. But if we're looking ahead to that first game of the season, it's the Southern Heritage Classic. It's FAMU. They probably feel like they should have won.
Are you talking Southern Heritage, or are we talking Orange Blossom here?
Oh, I said that's Southern Heritage. My bad. I confused myself. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm talking the Orange Blossom Classic.
Yeah.
FAMU probably feels like they should have won that game. Because if we remember, even in the first episode of Coach Prime, they showed Jackson State blocked the kick. They blocked the kick, and they only won by 1 point.
Yep.
FAMU had quarterback problems the entire game. Rashawn McCade, and they was flopping quarterbacks. They couldn't block anybody. But their defense held really, really strong. They're really, really strong. So looking ahead to that game, before we get to spring ball, but just looking ahead to that game, do you think it will be another close game if we're just looking at the offseason additions that FAMU did, the offseason additions and subtractions of Jackson State? And do you think Jackson State will be able to, not only blow away that game, like win that fairly easy, but be able to go 8-0 again in the SWAC?
No, definitely not a blowout. I think it's a different type of game, right? Like last year was a 7-6 drag it out rock fight slugfest.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting that this year. I don't think there will be 13 total points between the two teams.
Oof. I hope not.
See some more points between what JSU has on offense and FAMU losing what they lost defensively.
Now, do you think so? Just off what we know right now as the roster is currently constructed, do you believe that JSU will step up in offense and take a step down in defense, or how do you think both the offense and defense will get better? Like, how do you see that playing out?
Offensively, they got much bigger on the O-line.
Yeah.
And hopefully that means better, right? And they've also gotten more experience. Like when you bring in a dude like Simi Moala, who, started some games in the Pac-12 and is 6'7", 300 pounds. That's a good dude. That's a good dude to add to your O-line, right?
Yeah.
Got a couple transfers from ULM who beat Jackson State last year. So you go over there, take a couple guys, plug them in on your O-line there. You've got some contributors who you're looking to improve on the O-line. And as Coach Prime said, the O-line was the weak link of the team. They made that a focal point in recruiting. They're like, we're going to get bigger, better, faster on this O-line. I think they did that. You return Shedeur Sanders. You have that talented receiving room that we looked at. I think Jackson State's going to be much better on offense this year. Defensively, you got to replace James Houston.
That's tough. That is tough. That's tough to do because James Houston was such a dominant player, man. I mean, you're talking about 14 and a half sacks on the season, a bunch of like over 20 tackles for loss. And I think people also sleep on the losing of Antoine Owen. Antoine Owen was
first team
exactly. He was a big contributor. And don't get me wrong, they got some bodies in there, like Frankie Burgess. They got the Josh Griffiths kid. They got some other guys in there. We got some bodies, but bodies don't always mean production. We need some production and see what they're going to be able to do on that defensive front, because the defensive front was so dominant last year that it allowed them to do some things, whether it's play man the entire game, every single game. You know what I mean? Like they were able to do that because quarterbacks didn't have a ton of time to throw. But everybody's upgraded on offense across the SWAC. I seen the guys that Valley brought in. I saw the guys that Grambling brought in. Alabama A&M reloaded. A lot of these teams are on that schedule, that SWAC schedule. I mean, those guys are like, yo, we ain't stay around twiddling our thumbs while Jackson State went out and got Travis Hunter, Kevin Coleman. Like, we went out and got some ball players too.
For sure. And remember, JSU loaded up on some transfers, man. They got Antonio Doyle, who I probably see playing that James Houston role. Just so many similarities coming back from the SEC. Started off as a middle linebacker, made that transition to edge rusher. And he was a highly touted dude coming out of high school.
Yeah, he was. He was
one of the top 10 linebackers in the country. So I think the defense, I think JSU prided itself on being the best defense in the SWAC last year. I think they have the talent to do it again this year. You've got Aubry Miller, who had 100 or so tackles coming back. And
that was big. That was big getting him to come back for another year. Aubry, I didn't expect that. I did not expect that. But getting him to come back for another year to be the leader in the middle of that defense, huge for Jackson State.
Sure. Another year of experience for Shiloh. You throw the number one player in the country in the secondary, that secondary you're talking about.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying it. Shaq Davison had no problem with that secondary. That's all I'm saying, man. Like, Shaq Davis had a field day against those guys. Now, granted, you can say what you want, but Shaq Davis, Corey Fields found his rhythm in the second half against that secondary in that South Carolina. That's why I was like, I'm saying maybe just because I saw, and another thing, another reason why I brought this up is because, especially even when I brought up Southern, when Coach Dooley was coaching at Prairie View, there were some open throws to my guy. Shout out to I know Jawan Pass. He played at Louisville. I met him a couple times. He just missed some throws, dude. Like, there was dudes open. Dooley drew up some plays, and them dudes from Prairie View was open. He just missed them. And other times, James Houston was in his face. But I'm like, the secondary showed some flaws. You know what I mean? Like, they showed some inconsistencies throughout the season.
Sure. But that's Coach Prime's area of expertise. And now he has the talent. And now he has the talent to mold it. I mean, he's coaching who he hopes will be the next Prime.
Yeah, you're right about that. Once again, we're talking to Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger. Now, Khari, before we get into Coach Prime, the documentary, season 2, episode 1, heading into spring ball, what are your biggest storylines? What are the things that has you most interested in this JSU football team? It's a lot of good, but everything wasn't perfect last season. Obviously, they lost to ULM, and then they lost the big one. They lost down in the Celebration Bowl. So what are the storylines that you're cooking up over there at the Clarion Ledger that you want to get some answers on heading into the fall season, or at least heading into the spring season?
Honestly, it's a lot of off the field stuff. I will say this: watch Coach Prime. There's gonna be some nuggets of news in there that I'll be watching closely for that I can't drop quite yet. But watch Coach Prime.
I think that's interesting. That's an interesting take you got there. I don't want to press you about it. I kind of do, but I'll leave you alone about it. But let's talk about Coach Prime, the documentary. You watched episode 1. What were your thoughts?
It was, I thought it was good. I thought it was much more well-produced than season 1. I feel like it had more of a plan.
What makes you say that? What was the distinct difference that you saw that makes you make that statement?
Well, Dana Beer said it. He already said it. But I don't know. It just, they were doing some flashback stuff with Aubry, kind of showing his growth from year to year. And they were continuing to tell the story of what's going on in Jackson. And I just thought it was a good start, man.
Yeah, no, that was my favorite part about the whole thing, is showing the growth of Aubry Miller, having his dad in there, because the thing about Aubry, even during the spring season and during Coach Prime season 1, the kid was crazy talented. It was like, yo, this dude is good, man. I didn't realize, and this is the thing the documentary taught me, I didn't realize how hard this man works. Like, this dude's getting in work, lifting those weights, like putting the time in and the grind in. But then to go and watch yourself on a documentary that's just showing the raw, like what's happening, like it was like, yo, what, like even during last year, it's like, yo, what's wrong with bro? Like, you're super talented, just do the work. You know what I'm saying? Like, do your class work, listen to your coaches. Like, these dudes know where you want to be. Dennis Thurman coached years, has NFL experience. He knows how to get you there. The Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis, like he knows how to get you there. Deion Sanders, he knows how to get you there. You're talented enough to play on Sundays. Just make it happen. And for him to watch that stuff and take away the same thing that I took away, like, yo, if I just, keep my nose to the ground, keep grinding, I can end up playing on Sundays. That to me spoke volume about him, his character, and what they're doing at JSU.
Sure. In addition to him being a talented guy, like I've met Aubry a couple of times. He's a really good guy. Just from my interactions with him, and he comes from a high school powerhouse in Memphis, Whitehaven, who I covered when I was in Memphis. So I know like the background of how they prepare guys and get them to the league, which is why, to high level college ranks, they produce a lot of SEC guys.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually did a story when Bama played Ohio State in the title game a couple of years ago. There was a Whitehaven graduate on both teams.
Wow.
So it's a really strong program. They finished runner-ups for the 6A state title my first year in Memphis in 2018. So he comes from a good program that kind of has a history of putting players out there. So that's why I was surprised to see what was going on with him in the classroom in the documentary. But I'm glad to see that he fixed it, and it shows that people can change their ways.
Now, Khari, I got to ask you about this because I saw this on a couple of other people's pages. Once again, we're talking to Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. I saw the interactions between Coach Prime and Shiloh. Just the way they talk to each other, those kind of things. What were your thoughts on that, man? And being someone with boots on the ground down there in Jackson, just what is your takeaway, and what do you get from the interaction, the relationship between Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and his son Shiloh?
I mean, it's just hilarious, man. I mean, Coach Prime is just going to be Coach Prime, man. Like, I can't imagine having that dude as a dad, man. Like, no filter, man. Just, son, you know where you came from? You came from that's just what it is. And that's why we're entertained by Coach Prime. And that's why it's such an engaging watch. And then Shiloh gives it right back, right? Shiloh, you ask the team who has the best Shiloh impression, the best Coach Prime impression. I mean, Shiloh's got to be up there, man. He goes down pretty well.
How different is it for someone who interacts with the team, someone that covers the team? How different is the relationship with Deion in Shador versus Deion with Shiloh? Is it different in a way that's like, is it bad? Is it good? Because because it's clearly different, but just, from your perspective, how do you see it?
You talking about comparing Shiloh and Shador?
Yeah, just with their dad, with their interaction with their dad / head coach.
I don't know, man. Like I haven't really been able to tell much of a difference between the two. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't really have any inside info on that yet that I can speak of. I mean, watching them in press conferences and stuff and during the games, it's not that much different. But your boy is working on getting some access.
Okay, but that's interesting though, man. But that's like really good because I know a lot, some different things that people will say, like, and you even hear Prime say, like, my favorite son. I think he was on live the other day, and he was like, my favorite son.
Talking about rankings. He keeps a running rankings. It changes.
He keeps a running ranking. So okay, of his like favorite kids.
It'll change week by week based on what they do. It's a true power rankings of who his favorite kids are.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. So he ranks his, because he's got a bunch of kids. I think he's got like five kids. Five kids. Okay.
3 of them are going to be at JSU next year.
Yes,
his daughter committed to the basketball team.
I saw that. A really good JSU basketball team, by the way, ladies basketball team.
Sure.
Now, I didn't know. So he actually keeps a power ranking of his favorite children. I had no idea about this. Whoa, that's actually hilarious.
You said it on Instagram. Yeah, I don't know whether he's joking or not, but like,
I definitely heard him say my favorite son, Shador. Because I was watching his live. He was talking about, he was answering questions on his live, and he was talking about, I'm trying to get my favorite son, Shador, on here. And I was like, yo, that's actually like hilarious that you declared to the world that you have a favorite son.
That was part of my research, right? Like, I've started watching some old episodes of like, what was Prime's reality show called?
The one on OWN. The one on Oxygen or something, where when they were kids, when they were like little kids. Yeah, I see.
There's a clip. There's a clip where he's like explaining to Shador, like, no, I don't love Shiloh more. Like, I love you all differently. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so he's been telling Shador stuff like that from a young age, man.
That's funny, man. That is funny. Once again, we're talking to Khari Thompson, the Clarion Ledger. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Now, Khari, you said 3 possible losses. People from JSU, they're not gonna like to hear that, man. Especially after only losing 2 games last season. If you had before spring ball, because all of this is predicated on what takes place during the spring, who emerges, who doesn't. If we're talking before spring season, who was the player that you're most looking forward to seeing heading into spring ball? I'm sure you'll be at a few spring practices. You'll be at the spring game. But who is the player you're most looking forward to heading into spring ball?
I mean, we got to take a look at the number 1 player in the country, man. That's what we want to see. That's what the country wants to see, right?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say outside of Travis, who was the player that.
Well, let's do that then. Outside of Travis, man. Outside of Travis, because everybody wants to see Travis. But outside of Travis, who's the player that you're most looking forward to seeing? I'll tell you mine once you're done.
I'm going to go with Antonio Doyle, man. I mean,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
We're looking for that James Houston replacement. And, it seems like he has the tools to be the guy. So I am intrigued by seeing him.
Yeah, I am looking forward, based off my audience, man. I'm looking forward to seeing Quay Davis because like you said, the receiver room, the change of offense is good because it is more of an air raid. You're going to see more, throwing. Shador obviously is talented enough, and the offensive line has gotten rebooted. So hopefully, you'll be able to block and protect. Quay Davis, Tyson Alexander. I'm actually give you 2. Tyson Alexander, as we know, had a great season, spring season, got hurt, missed all of fall, supposed to be back, supposed to be better than ever. I want to see how he looks in this JSU offense because outside of the problems with the offensive line, I felt like the running back room was lacking explosion. I didn't see anybody like Pickett was good. Santee Marshall, they're good. JD Martin, I think, was pretty good. but there wasn't like that. Like when you hand it off, a guy that I know can go 60, a guy I know can break off a 50-yard run and score a touchdown, right? Like now that is what I want to see out of Tyson Alexander. That's what I saw out of Tyson Alexander during the spring, specifically during that Grambling game. And I'm hoping that he can bring that back to this JSU offense come this spring. I guess we'll have to wait and see, man.
That's a good pick. They need him.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they need it for sure. So, Khari, if I got to put you on the spot right here, man, I got to put you on the spot. Does Jackson State make it back to the Celebration Bowl this fall? Why or why not?
Oh, they absolutely make it back. I think that has to be the expectation. That has to be. I mean, it's
that's the expectation. But what does Khari Thompson say? If you had to answer on February 23rd, does JSU make it back to the Celebration Bowl? Yes or no, and why or why not?
So they're not killing themselves with their schedule, right? They're playing 10 HBCUs, right? They've scheduled some SWAC games for non-conference, which is cool. Money moves, but it's not made in the interest of playing the best possible competition to prepare you for such a postseason run, which is also part of why I think they kind of had issues with South Carolina State last year. So
good points, valid points.
So like they should be able to. I mean, I think with their recruiting class and what they have coming back, they should be the best HBCU football team in the country. And if you believe that statement to be true, 10 out of their 11 opponents are HBCUs. Yes. And there's nobody else. I mean, yes, everybody's improved, but nobody else is recruiting in their stratosphere, as far as HBCUs. JSU is top 60 in the country 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
FBS or no FBS. So if you have that level of talent and you know that you have the FCS Coach of the Year, the FCS Player of the Year coming back and much improved at your weak spots, I think you got to expect to run the table. That's why I said possible losses, because they shouldn't lose any games. They should be favored in every game.
Oh, they will be. They will be. Hey, ain't no should. We know that you've been in this business long enough. You know they're going to be. JSU is going to be a touchdown favorite in every single game, except FAMU. FAMU will be the only game they may be less than a 7-point favorite. I think FAMU, they'll be less than a 7-point favorite. Grambling, possibly. Every other game, they'll be 8.5, 9, some of them 10. Let me pull this up one more time. Who else is on here? Texas Southern, they'll be a 2-touchdown favorite. Tennessee State, they'll be a 10-point favorite. They're gonna be a big favorite. And so because of that, do you think that Khari, I got this for you, man. Going into the Celebration Bowl, we heard, or after the Celebration Bowl, I know I heard it on my show. I'm sure you heard it at the paper. Folks were like, we overlooked South Carolina State. We didn't take them serious.
Said it to our faces at the media day, at the media availability.
Will there be another instance of that taking place? Like, will they overlook any team? Because some of these teams are going to be, like I said, 2-touchdown, 16, 17-point favorites in some of these games. Could they actually slip up and actually lose to one of these teams they ain't supposed to lose to?
Yeah, of course. I mean, nobody picked them to lose to South Carolina State last year.
You're right about that.
I don't even know outside of folks in South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if them folks, but I thought South Carolina State was going to pull that off. I don't even know if the people in Orangeburg thought that was going to happen. I don't know about. Only person that I know on record was CFL Kobe Orr over at the CFL. Shout out to CFL. He came on here with me pre-South Carolina pre-celebration boat, said, hey, man, don't sleep on South Carolina State. He started naming all these dudes, and I'm like, yeah, man, that sound good, bro. But come on, man. We talking about JSU, man. We talking about Prime. And sure enough, they went out there and they did the dang thing. So I cannot. Hats off to South Carolina State. Hats off to Buddy Pugh. I can't knock on them at all. But like we said, they'll be favorites in any of those games. Okay, I got another question for you, Khari. Another question for you. Is depth an issue for JSU at any position? Do you think like if knock on wood, we're not gonna speak injury or anything, but say if a significant player, is there a player on this roster as of now, if they were to miss any kind of time for whatever reason, would that be a major factor to what takes place with JSU this fall? Obviously, we'll know more come spring, transfers in and out after spring and stuff like that. But is there a position outside of quarterback? Let me say quarterback, because quarterback, we know how big that is. But outside of quarterback, if they were to lose a player at any position, would that matter? Would that be a big hindrance or no? Do you think?
I think that we need to see what the running backs look like. When you talk about depth, I think that's what we need to see. I think we need this team to show that they can run the ball effectively.
Yeah.
If Tyson's going to be that go-to guy you think he is, and they lose him, that's a big loss, because that was the difference to me between them winning and dominating last year.
I like that.
The real dominant FCS teams, they can just run it down your throat. They can just overpower you with their linemen. And when they need that short yardage, they can just punch you in the mouth, get 3 yards. JSU was not that kind of team last year. JSU, if they were going to beat you, they were going to do it through the air. Shador was going to have to step up and make plays. So if you add that extra dimension of physicality to your game, and you show that you do have that featured back that we were talking about looking at, and that your O-line is much improved, it's going to take this offense to a level that I think most HBCUs can't compete with.
Yeah, man, that O-line is so critical, as we saw it in the first episode of Coach Prime, as we saw it all season last year. Everybody is looking forward to seeing what this new look offensive line is going to look like. Like everybody, like not when I say everybody is looking for what this new offensive line, because to me, a lot of folks feel like everything else is put in place. The quarterback is there. The receivers are there. The running backs are there. They're capable. The defense, albeit you got to replace some big pieces when you add Travis on the other side of Nugget, and you got Shiloh and those guys man in the backfield, Aubry back at middle linebacker, and a defensive line that still has Evans, that brings in Doyle, that still has Coinus Miller. Every piece seems like they're already well put together, and it's just the O-line. Everybody is looking to see what that O-line. Now, granted, they brought in names and they brought in bodies, but how is that going to mesh well together when you add the Zach Bros and the Evan Henrys and the Simi Moalas and all these different guys that I can't even think of their names right now, to Tony Gray and the guys that are left over from last year, who hear all these people talking about them? Like, they got something to prove. Like, y'all keep saying we're garbage. I'm going to show you that I'm not garbage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I just cannot wait to see it, man. I just cannot wait to see it. Once again, we're talking to Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Now, Khari, I'll get you out on this, man. I'll get you out on this. Okay. Let me ask you this. What are you most looking forward? Obviously, we know Coach Prime is based off last season. Mm-hmm. We know what took place, at least most of it. We know most of what took place last season. What are you looking forward to moving forward the last 5 episodes of Coach Prime? What is the storyline or the story that you're looking forward to them covering and potentially, uncovering with the rest of this documentary or docuseries?
First of all, the trailer teased that Coach Prime was in danger of getting his leg amputated.
That's pretty wild. Pretty wild.
I have seen him since. His leg is not amputated.
Yeah.
But it will be curious to see how they cover that, because I feel like Barstool's been teasing that they have some pretty exclusive footage on that they'll cover. And you got to see, they mentioned that they're going to talk about Travis and his recruitment. And I think that's another storyline that you want to pay attention to, because it hasn't been done before in the HBCU ranks. In the recruiting rankings era, he's the highest rated player. So to be curious, anything that they can get on how he ended up at Jackson State and, what he's looking forward to once he gets there.
Man, it's really cool. Because we've heard Coach Prime talk about Travis was at the homecoming game.
Sure.
And so, I mean, in that, basically, he's let it be known, it's public knowledge, that kind of sealed the deal to him going to JSU. I wonder what they're going to, now that he is signed, he's enrolled, he's on the team, what kind of like he was saying to some of them, what, how his interaction with the fans were, because I'll never forget when I saw the pictures of him there, and I was like, yo,
right.
What? And then we had you on, and you were like, what I'm saying? Never say never, man. Like, never say never. I was like, man, Khari knows something. It still can't be serious, is it? Like, Travis Hunter ended up at Jackson State after 2 years, committed to Florida State. And like you said, I mean, it's hard to believe something when it's never been done before. And to get him on Jackson State campus, to me, was a win. Right? Mm-hmm. To me, I was like, yo, that is a dope move. That is a win. But to see him toss that Florida State hat, one hand snag the JSU hat and actually be there, and then like I had to rub my eyes when I see him doing the wind sprints, like with the JSU gear on. I was like, yo, this is crazy, man. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, JSU homecoming has gotten to the point where they've got Barstool promoting HBCU athletics. I'm not sure if I ever thought I'd see that in my life, but you got Barstool talking about everybody needs to know about HBCU. I mean, that's how crazy JSU homecoming was last year.
Hey, man. Hey, if you don't know anything about Barstool, that is why that's hilarious. Because let's be honest, Barstool, when it was created, didn't have us in mind. And by us, I mean black folks. Like Barstool as a company is like a big old frat party. Now they happen to have Gilly Wallow and now Coach Prime. So it's got a little diversity going on. But, Barstool is what it is. Man, Khari, thank you so much, man, for coming in. Once again, this is Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger. Be sure, Khari, you got any stories to promote? Where can people find you? Let them know so they can check out your stuff, man.
Man, clarionledger.com. That's where you can find my stuff. I just did a story on Warren Newman and CJ Holmes. I don't think a lot of people know their story, but they're both from New Orleans. They both are in the same class, and they came to JSU as walk-ons. So a lot of people who are watching the documentary might know them as, these seniors who, have established themselves as real players on this roster. But the grind that it took to get there, coming in as a walk-on without a scholarship, not knowing if they'd be able to come back, having Coach Prime bring in all these recruits, and then still fighting to maintain their spot. And now they're down at House of Athlete in Miami. So I caught up with their trainer and caught up with them just about what they're up to now and the grind it took them to get to this place. So definitely check that out.
Absolutely, man. I honestly, you just dropped a nugget on me. I didn't know those two came in as walk-ons. I knew they were both from New Orleans. I actually knew Warren was at House of Athlete because that's Brandon Marshall's gym in Florida, right? Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know CJ Holmes was there. I didn't know they were walk-ons. That's a really dope story. Be sure to go check out Khari Thompson of the Clarion Ledger, his story on that, man. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button on your way out, and we will see you guys next time.